Greetings, friends. Welcome once again to I, where we inquire and hopefully inspire each other about the word. Of course, my name is Regina, and I'm just trying to grow spiritually, and happy to have you on this journey with me. Now, a friend of mine and I were talking recently, and a discussion came up about people in their comfort zones and how, you'd be able to motivate someone who is a good person, morally sane, morally sound, and just isn't growing though spiritually. I couldn't really answer that question, but it definitely reminded me of a parable, and that's what we're going to look at today. This parable is found in Matthew. It's Matthew 25, 14 to 30. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole entire passage. I will paraphrase a bit, but I will zoning on verse 29. Okay, so this parable is an illustration that was used to kind of explain or describe the kingdom of heaven. And it's about a master who had 3 servants, and each of these servants had different abilities. So this master gave each servant, bags of silver, or some versions of the Bible say talents, which I really like that word, even though I think it's a currency. Gave them, different bags or different talents, depending on their abilities. So he gave the first servant 5 bags of silver. I'm going to use this version. He gave the second servant 2 bags of silver, and the third servant 1 bag of silver. So he went away for some time and came back, and asked him about the money, like what happened with the money. The 5-bag servant said, I invested this and I brought 5 more. So here's 10 bags. The second servant, he worked and, he brought in 2 extra bags. So here's 4 bags. The third servant, he took his 1 bag and he wanted to be very careful and safe with it. He didn't want to spend it. So he dug a hole and put it in the hole to keep it safe and secure. And when the master came back, he brought it to the master and said, listen, I didn't want anything to happen to this silver. I know how things can be. So here's back your 1. So the servant get cussed off, right? He was called wicked and he was called lazy. Can you imagine, the servant thinking to himself how unreasonable his master was when the master never asked him to invest it. The master never suggested to put it in the bank. He just entrusted him with it with no other instructions. And the servant did the best that he could. He did not go and spend it, right? He did not, use it loosely. He kept it safe. And here it is. He brings it back and he's being, reprimanded. So when I read this passage, I could resonate or relate with both servants. I can think of times when I'm given something and I put energy and invest time into it and it multiplies into something. But interestingly, what I found is that the things that are most important to me, I tend to act or think like the servant with the 1 bag, because I'm afraid that I won't be able to face the consequences, or I can't deal with the failure of it. I just prefer to keep it safe, don't really do too much, and just make sure that it's comfortable and it's safe and nothing happens to it. So nothing happens to it. Nothing bad happens to it, but nothing good happens to it. And I think this is why the servant was called lazy. All right. So a lot of us are living this life where we're doing good, we're meaning well, we have good moral character and making good moral choices, but we're not necessarily giving justice to things. So verse 29 says, to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have abundance. But for those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. We tend to confuse humility with a lack of confidence or passive, right? We think, we're being humble when it's really that we just don't have the confidence. I know sometimes we confuse caring for something and protecting it with incapacity, not doing anything at all, thinking that we're protecting it. And then also, the biggest one is when we confuse being just or moral, right? Like that servant was acting just in his view, but not serving justice to the task. And the problem with that is, if you believe, like I believe, that God is an extraordinary God, and having faith in Him can help us to achieve extraordinary things, why can't we be extraordinary people, right? Why aren't our talents and our gifts being used in extraordinary ways? So it's not okay to just be okay, right? To just making good moral decisions and living day to day, doing what you need to do, right? It's actually wicked, it's lazy, and it's unfavorable. And if we are given talents and we are given things, we need to multiply them and manifest them, right? Like in Matthew 25, verse 29, right? And additionally, a lot of us don't really know what our talents are. So that's the activity for this week, is to see if you can identify at least 5. I mean, you might be the servant with the 1 bag, which is fine. You might have 2 bags, but try and see if you can find 5 talents. And I know talent is a currency, but talents could be anything, your coins, your gifts, what you have natural aptitude towards. Find 5 of them and check yourself, see if you are manifesting those talents. See if you're multiplying those bags of coins, from 5 to 10. Are you investing them in people, in things? If not, I think that's where it's at. Thank you so much for watching. I'm really enjoying this journey, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.